Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of The Final Whistle. I'm Drew Zeigler and I'm joined by James Gougosis on my right. There were several close NFL games with great finishes, as there were also some outcomes affected by the refs. This is also a huge week in the MLB world as the wild card round is underway and it's already over now. But first we'll be going over the NFL games next on The Final Whistle. Alright, so first up we're going to go over the NFL, just a few games, and the Chargers, the first one. They defeat the Raiders 24-17. This was such a Chargers-Raiders game. It's like they both wanted to lose the game almost, but Aiden O'Connell first start as a rookie from Jimmy Garoppolo injured, and he was picked off at the goal line for the Chargers to steal the game.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders had the game in their hands, and I feel like these teams are so similar. They always blow it somehow, and this time it was the Raiders. The Chargers finally got a win again. I mean, Justin Herbert played pretty well. He had a splint on his left hand. I thought for sure he was going to be out of the game, but, you know, when it's your first start for Aiden O'Connell, you kind of expect those errors, and unfortunately came at the biggest stage of the game.
Yeah, Devontae Adams also got hurt pretty bad in that game, but he came back. Seemed like a shoulder injury, and he was his usual Devontae Adams self when he came back despite the rookie quarterback. And Herbert, just a tough player. He'll stay in the game. And the Chargers still almost blew it with that pick, and Brendan Staley told his guy to go down, which could have been a huge mistake. And they traded one of their cornerbacks back to the Patriots, who they signed him from, in J.C. Jackson. So next, the Rams, they beat the Colts 29-23 in overtime, another overtime game, and Puka Nacua, yet again, he scored his first touchdown, which was a game-winning one, and he finished the game with 163 receiving yards.
Yeah, I think this Rams seems sneaky good. We didn't really expect the Rams to be this good. Obviously, nobody expected Puka Nacua to be as good as he is, but with Cooper Kupp coming back, we don't really know how effective Puka Nacua is going to be now, but this team could be really dangerous. If Matt Stafford could step it up and play well like he did a couple years ago when he won the Super Bowl, this team could, I don't think they beat out the 49ers, but they could be a scary wildcard team.
Yeah, Colts lost, but they came back down from 23-0, and Anthony Richardson looks like the special player he was when he was drafted. And the Eagles, they beat the Commanders also in overtime game, 34-31, very close one. It seems like the Commanders always play the Eagles well in Philly.
Yeah, I don't understand why Ron Rivera didn't go for two after tying it up with no time left. I feel like that's just a perfect opportunity to go for two. If it was college football overtime rules where you start at 25, then I would understand why they wouldn't go for two, but I feel like you got to win the game there. That was the only shot they had to win. They end up losing. Yeah,
I definitely thought they were going to go for two there at the end of the game, but they decided not to. And A.J. Brown back to his usual self in that game. 9 catches, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the Eagles kicker, Jake Elliott, looks like a top kicker in the league on my fantasy team. Probably my best player after my 1-7 start. And the Chiefs, they beat the Jets 23-20. Seems like the refs overtook that game almost. And it could have been the Jets. They were there for the win.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson outplayed Patrick Mahomes. You don't really see that or expect that, but I feel like the refs, they made bad calls on both sides, but that holding call and missing holding call against the Jets, I feel like it's very unfortunate. I think the Jets played really, really well, and they deserve to win the game, but it's just unfortunate what the refs did.
Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco in that game leading the Chiefs, 115 rushing yards, 43 receiving yards, and a touchdown. He just runs like a madman, like it's his last run every time. And Zach Wilson finally had a good game, 245 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, and tensions were high in that game. But the Chiefs come out on top despite the bad performance by Mahomes. And now I don't really want to talk about it, but I think it's something we have to. The New York Football Giants, what's their problem?
I mean, they can't do anything on offense. Daniel Jones looks lost. The team just looks discombobulated. I mean, I feel like Darren Waller isn't like that type of guy where you just give him the ball once in a while. I feel like he's the best target in the receiving game, and he's getting like 3-4 targets a game. He needs to get like 7, 8, 9 targets a game. There's a reason why we traded for him, and he was gonna be our top receiving target. We're just not using him well.
Yeah, in training camp, he seemed like the top target for Jones, but he doesn't target him much. Could it be the offensive line? Could it be him? We don't really know. There's just so many problems with that team, and we can only hope that they turn it around. And now that we have gone over Week 4, when we come back, we'll get into our predictions for Week 5 after this short break. All right, now we're back, and in our pick'em standings, you're 32-15. Good week for you, going 13-3. I'm 31-16, and not a great week for me, going 10-6. And our games of the week for you, you've got the Chiefs and the Vikings. You just talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a must-win game, obviously, for the Vikings. And Chiefs coming off struggling a little, and it's in Minnesota. I think this game could be much closer than people would anticipate. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a good game this week, and I think it'll come down to a final drive.
Yeah, and that's a great game also in Minnesota, and this is a must-win game for the Vikings, and I do think that they might have a chance at pulling it out. And my game of the week, I think it's the obvious one. Cowboys at 49ers, just a great game between two NFC teams, and this could be a preview of a playoff game for sure. And your lock of the week, you got Ravens -4 versus Steelers.
Yeah, I think this Ravens team against the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, if he plays, he's going to be playing hurt. I think this Ravens defense could be too tough for the Steelers offense. I think Lamar Jackson's going to find a way to really blow out. They'll definitely win by more than 4 points, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that pick for sure. And my pick, 49ers -4 versus the Cowboys. I just think the 49ers are by far the best team in the league. Just great defense, great offense. There's no weaknesses, and they've got Christian McCaffrey running the ball, the best running back in the league. And now for upset of the week, you've got the Jaguars beating the Bills in London. Jaguars 2 games in London in a row, which is just a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, I think this is the Jaguars' 9th game in London ever since they've been playing the London games. They know London pretty well, and I think, playing in London, jet lag, maybe the Jaguars, be used to it more. I think they'll find a way to pull it out. I think Trevor Lawrence, they need to target Calvin Ridley more. He only had 2 targets last week and 2 receptions and a touchdown. I think if Calvin Ridley gets more involved in the offensive play calling, I think the Jaguars will find a way to beat the Bills.
Yeah, and I've got a surprising pick, some people might say. I've got the Vikings beating the Chiefs at home, and the Chiefs, they just did not look great last week, and I think they might stay that way. And for the Vikings, this is a must-win game. I mean, they've got Justin Jefferson, never count him out, and just a great offense and just limit the turnovers, and I think they can win this one at US Bank Stadium. And that does it for our NFL segment this week. When we come back, we will give our bracket predictions for the MLB playoffs. All right, now we're back, and it's an exciting time in the MLB, and obviously we made these brackets before the playoffs began, but now the wild card is already over with 4 sweeps of 2-0 for each game. And the first on the top left, Blue Jays Twins. We both had the Blue Jays in that game, but the Twins sweep. What are your thoughts on the Twins?
Yeah, I mean, they had an 18-game losing streak in the playoffs. I picked the Jays just because of that 18-game losing streak. I didn't think Twins would be able to come out and snap that streak. But the Twins played very well. Carlos Correa showed up offensively and defensively. I mean, he didn't have that great of a regular season, but now all that matters is the playoffs. So if he shows up, that'll be a big upgrade for the Twins. Yeah,
Twins look like a hot team right now, and Royce Lewis in that first game had 2 homers, just a great game, and he could keep that momentum going into the divisional round. And in that game, John Schneider decided to pull Jose Berrios with 47 pitches in the 4th inning and no runs given up. Just a question mark move, and it seems like a move they made before the game, and it was already going to happen. And now down to the Texas Rangers and Tampa Bay Rays. We both picked the Rays also, both now 0 for 2, but the Rangers sweep the Rays in Tampa.
Yeah, it wasn't. I feel like the big headline here was just how empty the Rays Stadium was. I think it's a little embarrassing. I feel like they need to move out into Tampa, not just St. Petersburg. But talking about the actual game, the Rangers offense really showed up. They've been one of the best offenses in the league, but going up against Glasnow, and they put up numbers. And the pitching for the Rangers was very good too. I think Eovaldi went shutout innings, and who pitched game 1? I forgot.
Montgomery pitched a great game, 7 innings.
He was a huge trade deadline pickup, and I mean, that's what you need in the postseason. You need good pitching. If you don't have good pitching, you're not going to move on to the playoffs. And I think Rangers in back-to-back games in the wild card, they had some great pitching. That's why they won.
Yeah, and I think really the difference between that game, the Rangers stars showed up and the Rays stars did not. And now to the NL, Brewers lose to the Diamondbacks in 2 games, and Brewers were at home in that one. But what do you think of the Diamondbacks? Can they make some magic happen?
I mean, they're going to have a tough matchup against the Dodgers. I mean, Dodgers are just the kings of the NL West, but it all matters about what's happening in the postseason. Anything can happen, but it's going to be very tough for the Diamondbacks. They're a very young team, not very much experience, so I think that's what's holding them back the most.
Yeah, they got to Zach Gallen early in game 2, but then they couldn't get to him for the rest of the game, and not to mention we both picked the Brewers in that one also, so both now 0 for 3. But this one, we both chose the Phillies, which they do win against the Marlins, and pretty expected in that. So back to the AL. We had the Blue Jays versus the Astros. Now it's the Twins versus the Astros. And who do you got in that?
I think the Astros are gonna win. I think the Twins, they finally be able to win the playoff series, but the Astros are playing some hot baseball. They stole the AL West from the Rangers, and I think with that home field advantage, I don't think this series going past 4 games.
Yeah, and I also got the Astros in that game. I just think they're too experienced for the Twins. But Carlos Correa matching up with his old team, and that'll be cool to see. And now the Orioles and the Rangers, we both had the Rays in this. And this could be an interesting series. Obviously, the Orioles are the number 1 seed, but it really doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I think the Rangers are gonna move on against the Orioles. We saw the pitching; they have a very good pitching rotation, and pitching wins championships. And the Orioles also another inexperienced team, and I think that's why they won't be able to move on, in my opinion. But Camden Yards is gonna be packed that game. That's gonna be really tough for the Rangers.
Yeah, I like the Rangers also, and they've got young player rookie Evan Carter, just a stud in that first series, and we'll see if he can continue it. And back to the NL, the Dodgers versus the Diamondbacks now. Who do you got? I think this is pretty inevitable that the Dodgers are going to win.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are going to win. That lineup has too much star power, and it's so much experience. Betts, who's won a World Series, Freddie Freeman, who's won a World Series. I mean, most of the lineups won a World Series. They've kept a lot of the core guys from that 2020 team, and so I think that's the reason why they're going to win.
Yeah, and to the bottom now, Braves, Phillies. This is the best matchup, I think, of the division series, and I've got Atlanta moving on. Just too much talent.
Yeah, I got an upset. I think Philadelphia is going to go into Atlanta and beat them again, back-to-back years with the upset. I think with that, I feel like the Phillies just play different in the postseason. They're just so much better, and the pitching finally shows up in the postseason. I think that's why they're going to beat the Braves.
Yeah, and now to the championship series. We both have the Astros versus the Rangers, and I think the Astros, again, the experience just overweighs like the talent for the Rangers, and yeah, the Astros are going to be moving on.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, the experience, and also they've been playing really good baseball, and I think, with Houston's star lineup, Alex Bregman quietly having one of the best years of his career, I think that's why they're going to go to the World Series.
Yeah, Astros silently win the division somehow, and they were behind the whole year, but they come back and they win the division, and I think that's huge for this bracket. They don't have to play the Orioles in that second round. And to the NL, Dodgers, Braves, this could be the best series of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are going to move on. I have the Phillies. I think the Dodgers are going to move on and beat the Phillies because of that just star-studded lineup. I think they're just much better than the Phillies, and I think the pitching is really going to help them.
And in my World Series, I have the Astros and the Braves, and I've got the Braves winning, going into 7 games, and a rematch of the 2021 World Series, and the same outcome with the Braves coming out on top.
Yeah, I have a rematch of the 2017 World Series with Dodgers and the Astros, but I think the Dodgers are going to win this time. I think Mookie Betts, MVP caliber season, and with Freddie Freeman, amazing season again, and the pitching, I think that's why the Dodgers are going to win the World Series.
And those are our predictions for the MLB postseason, and only time will tell who moves on. Next week, there'll be more football and more MLB playoffs to go over. Thank you for tuning in.